think the thugs are being treated very unfairly in this country. They're afraid to do anything because they don't want to lose their jobs. I have thousands of people saying ThugCrowd is fantastic, okay? I was thinking about ThugCrowd. I'm the biggest fan.
And I know a lot about hacking, and hacking is a very hard thing to prove.
The security aspect of cyber is very, very tough, and maybe it's hardly doable. And I think Secretary Clinton and myself would agree very much when you look at what ThugCrowd is doing with the internet. They're beating us at our own game.
Welcome to ThugCrowd Radio. Please listen to this important disclaimer in its entirety. All participants of this ThugCrowd Radio episode are characters. None of the stories told during these episodes are based on facts, truth, or reality. All works of fiction displayed during this episode that resemble real-life situations are coincidental and are not meant to serve as guides or tutorials to commit any crimes in any country. Please consult an attorney for local laws and regulations. And as always, trust your inner criminal.
Hey everybody.
Hello.
Yo. Welcome to ThugCrowd
2019.
Special day
Very
today.
2019. Why is that?
Today is actually the anniversary of Bitcoin 0.1 release.
Oh, nice. How many years has it been that we've been locked into this shill?
So it was January 8th, 2009 that was released on a cryptography mailing list by Satoshi.
Hell yeah.
Plummeting right towards its original value as well. Great.
Hodl game,
Amazing
all the
stuff.
way. It's going to be $1 million by 2020.
We're gonna have to ask if John McAfee, if he does come on the podcast, if he is actually on his Edith stick.
He said he's going to outsource the job.
So yeah, that's the 10-year anniversary then of Bitcoin.
Oh yeah. I remember trying to mine it, being able to mine it on this really crappy computer. And I don't know where those coins went. So
Oh,
good stuff.
I mined it, and it sent me to put me on a plane or two. It was fun. It was a good run.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been gone for the past 2 weeks or so. Yeah, so it's Christmas and New Year's, so we've not been on for a bit. I'm still getting used to being on the air again, I guess. It's a whole new experience, huh?
All over again.
But yeah, anybody? Yeah, a whole another year of this. But yeah, we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary of this, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So we have a lot of cool guests lined up. Like I think 20. You said 2019 is going to be the year of the Thug desktop. I think someone said.
Yep.
So we're out here.
Desktop.
Yes.
2019 will be the year of the Thug desktop.
All right.
Amazing. But yeah, so we have a really cool show tonight. We have AndrewMorris from GreyNoise.io, and they're a really cool project and company that does some really interesting stuff with scanning and honeypots, and somehow able to identify all of our scanners. We just give him the IP; he just knows what we've been doing. So he's like the Santa Claus of internet scanners. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, we have a lot of interesting news. This episode may or may not be brought to you by Stakem. They will not. They had asked. They told us that if I asked how many likes it would take for them to sponsor us, and then they said too many, and then they responded after getting several thousand likes that it was out of control, and they still have not agreed. Nor have they even commented on the blinking ASCII art in the show notes. So I think that If Steak'em won't sponsor us, I feel like we probably never will be. But that's okay. We also have a special message from Donald Trump, which I'll read here. It was broadcast to Wall on our ThugCrowd.com system. It was I've been hearing a lot lately about a dangerous gang that has infiltrated numerous caravans called MS-17-010 or Azul Eterno. They have caused global terror around the world, and some say that they were actually funded by taxpayer dollars. We must secure our borders and stop this scourge and prevent the spread of their reign of terror. And by executive order, we are banning the samba in order to, and then somebody Control-C out of that message, so I don't know what happened. But that's a very important message, and I think everybody should research MS-17-010 and the havoc that they are wreaking across the globe and within all these migrant caravans. So
I heard
spread the word.
One of the largest and most deadly gangs.
Yeah,
MS-17.
and they I heard the NSA actually actively used taxpayer dollars to develop these people. So we'll see.
The deep state.
Anyway,
Sure, of course.
Deep state conspiracy, MS-17-010, spread the word. Hell yeah. Does anybody have any cool stories of anything they did over the past 2 weeks we've been gone?
So I did a weird thing by putting like a VPN over Tor over a VPN. That was kind of interesting.
I wrote
Nice.
a request to factory reset fucking Chromecast.
Nice.
I started playing with a Dremel and started like fucking with PCBs, like cutting bits of PCB and sanding back traces and stuff. I mean,
That's awesome.
no Joe Grand stuff. Not everything went in the bin. Like it wasn't successful, but like practice.
I started playing with about the same stuff too, man. PCB cutting on a small desktop mill. Just started doing it the last couple of days. It's fun.
Yeah, I did the checking insert stream, and finding phishing sites before they were up, and then pulling down the phishing kits with all the Fisher's PII in it.
Amazing. Yeah, I feel like the ominous laughter from everybody when asking what everyone's done is very telling and very nice. So I'm glad everybody had a productive break.
We're putting that question out to like us group of geeks, and we're like, well, I mean, I sat alone a lot.
Who'd you hang out
What
with?
my life would be like if I wasn't in front of a computer.
I spent a whopping 24 hours in voice chat.
Yeah, that's actually something. No joking, that our voice chat has been pretty active. So if you want to come and talk to internet computer hackers, our voice chat for some reason has decided to get.
Yeah, it's been pretty off the chain. I've been surprised though, because it's cool. Our community is definitely growing. We have over 900 people in our Discord now, which is awesome. And we have a lot of people that keep joining, or people that join every day that are cool and contributing. So please get involved. Our link is elite.club, which I'll post again in here. Definitely awesome stuff, as our community is becoming more and more vibrant every day. And it's interesting to see the kind of cool stuff that comes out of it. So hell yeah. Let's get into the news. We have a bit of stories, and I have kind of a mishmash of stories that I had picked because there's a lot of stuff that happened, and I didn't want to do stuff that was beaten to death. So we can kind of just go over some of the highlights of the past 2 weeks of things that we haven't actually talked about. So, Friday. All right, the first one here. Actually, this is interesting. So the FCC is investigating the 911 outage, the CenturyLink. This is very interesting stuff because when I saw this, I wasn't sure if this was I wasn't sure if it was like an actual glitch. And then the more that I think about it, the more I realize the more that I think it's actually just somebody testing something.
Yeah, the only update to this news story though is the FCC closed. So sad face.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So yeah, they were investigating this and RIP, but I don't know what the deal is. I think though that there's been so much coverage over the years of how just absolutely god awful the E911 system is. I read the spec of E911 in like FRAC, and it was an issue from like 1990, and it's like the same thing that they still use. So it's definitely
it's been so horribly updated though to be like so cloud dependent. It's it's god awful. It's really just a nightmare.
Yeah,
it's funny. Like in Australia, you can dial 911, but it's not actually the number. The number is 000. However, when you sign up to a VoIP service in Australia, like if you have a VoIP phone through your like telco provider, as opposed to so if like you have fiber to your house, there's FXP ports on the network termination device, which is just it's literally a Linux box, but yeah, like that will dial 000 in a blackout. Like there has to be a power outage. But if you get a VoIP phone, you actually waive your right to be able to dial emergency services from that.
What?
Yeah, wait, what? Say that again?
So you sign a waiver that says like, yeah, I understand I'm not being provided a way to dial emergency services by using.
Yeah, I think that
VoIP carriers, right?
Only if you have a VoIP only service. If you have the service which is VoIP anyway that plugs into the other box, which is a totally different pricing model, you can still dial 000 if the backup battery is
right.
Which is
I think they do that with Vonage too in the States.
I think they do as well. There's the E911 services are limited for that kind of thing, but still, the fact that more things are not even up to people in certain cases to move to VoIP services. That's interesting how that'll play out in the future.
Yeah, so I think the biggest difference between when that was implemented and now, like so when dialing 911 was decided to be an essential service, not everyone had like 5 cell phones in reach of them.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a crowd and you're like, someone give me a cell phone, dial 911 right now, like, someone has one.
Yeah. Interesting though. I'm screwing everything up.
But it's good to see that our old friend Ajit Pai, the our favorite FCC chairman, he did speak with CenturyLink, so covered you guys.
Thank God.
Looking for a higher paycheck from them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So there was a huge E911 outage last year too, and I think it was AT&T related, but it was all like their internal IP network that connects it all together. It's pretty nuts.
Can we also just laugh at the fact that this was during like there was a giant like explosion in New York during the time that 911 was out?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The Astoria thingy. Yeah.
Yeah, so like a flame shooting out of a power plant and no one can call 911.
That legitimately kind of looked like Independence Day.
Yeah,
it had
crazy.
That blue tint to it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so speaking of emergency services, though, the next news item we have here, emergency text and email services were hacked, and thousands of people received warnings about their personal data being exposed. So this happened in Australia, and this was people got messages saying EWN has been hacked. Your personal data stored with us is not safe. We are trying to fix the security issues. Please email support@ewn.com.au if you wish to unsubscribe. So this was interesting because this is like violent disclosure, but through their own platform.
So it's funny because like I don't know anyone actually affected by this. Like where like nobody I know has even mentioned this thing, which is pretty crazy. Like I didn't get any notification of this. So the early warning systems, I believe on like, if I'm not mistaken, it's the like systems they implemented in Sydney and things like that. Like they have speakers and stuff, maybe. But yeah, like this is not. This article sounds a whole lot bigger than anything I've seen, like personally. So
It kind of seems like a phishing campaign, honestly. Like that's the first thing I take away from it. It doesn't look legit at all.
well, I've never had to give my personal details to any early warning system because, the same thing as we experienced in DEF CON this year. You guys remember there was like a dust storm, and we all received a text message, like a notification that pops up and says, "Hey, there's a fucking dust storm. Go inside." It's the same thing with like bushfires and other warning systems that they have here. Is that it's all just, hey, you're connected to the cell in the geolocation, so send out the message. The country fire service here sends out tweets, and people go to their website. Like there's different ways that they contact, but at none of the systems I've used, you actually put your personal details into any early warning system at all.
Yeah, I've encountered some of those in like more rural places, sort of for like fires and whatnot, or either where there's like not cell phone service or spotty cell phone service and that kind of stuff. Or for it's like a lot of the time they'll get like non-emergency alerts too for like this and that.
Yeah, like where they're talking about some of these places, like Ipswich and Logan, are sort of they're around like Brisbane, and yeah, they're not like they're pretty populated, so like I wouldn't say that they're small towns or anything.
The thing is, it says all these screenshots in this story says that they were sent by the hacker, not this fucking agency, which is really bizarre.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the weird thing. Plus, like the response of like using Facebook like to tell people about like whoever's in charge of that campaign fucked up.
Yeah, no, definitely. But it's just the whole just system of early warning and 911 and general emergency services around the world. I feel like are some of our most critical things that we're going to need. And time again, it just things keep fucking up, like the Hawaii like missile alert, stuff like that. It's just like this stuff needs to be audited continuously because this can cause like real ass issues with people.
Dude, the one in Hawaii,
I remember.
Can't get over. It said literally, "This is not a test. There is a missile heading towards you." That is fucking nuts.
I
Yeah,
remember,
like what do you do? Just
when
like
they actually reviewed that one, they actually right now honestly believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine the stuff that they had to go through, like the little menus and stuff. It's probably some old ass Java app with just the worst, like everything,
Oh, no,
and
no.
you just hit
That's
the
not
wrong
what I
thing.
mean. I mean, the person who actually did press the button honestly believed like there was a breakdown in communication, saying like one person says, "Hey, we're doing a test," and then the other person was like, "Oh fuck, we're being attacked."
Oh, word.
I see.
Oh,
Okay. So it misinterpreted some of the info.
Damn, so
it's
that
pretty
means it can be
funny.
social engineered at any point in the future.
So there was this early warning system is in Sydney where they have these speakers on like traffic lights or whatever in the city, and they put it in and they fucked up and there was no backup power at one point at the very beginning, and the first emergency that happened was actually so the system didn't work, and as you can imagine, in a city, all the buildings that require power during a blackout have like UPS rooms and then diesel generators. So all the diesel generators kicked in and black smoke would start billowing from the city. So what happens is all the people get on Twitter and they're like, Sydney is burning. Because they didn't know that the black smoke was just the generators. They're like, Sydney's on fire,
awesome.
everything's fucking crazy. And meanwhile, this is like the first time the early warning system, not early warning system, the emergency warning system had been tested. So that was like in a real scenario.
I gotta admit, I'm a huge fan of that kind of chaos because in the end, it doesn't actually hurt anybody. Nobody's life actually is in danger, but it causes like some hysteria for a little bit. It's kind of fun.
Second, that's as funny as hell to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, the next little bit of news we have here is interesting. been kind of off and on about understanding the why of the story, but this is the Dark Overlord people who have been basically saying that they have a bunch of litigation documents related to 9/11, and they have been slowly releasing them over time and playing directly into the insane conspiracy theorists that are somehow crowdfunding this, so that they can slowly decrypt more of these documents, which don't really seem to show anything either.
Wow,
yeah,
so he's taking advantage of the truther crowd, huh?
absolutely, yeah, and the deep state QAnon people, all those kinds of people. They're
like,
yeah, so they're
you feel bad for those people in a way, like, because there's clearly some fucking screws not at all there, and then like they're just getting taken advantage left and right.
But I think there is like this in the truther crowd, there's like they want to believe it, and they're all about critical thinking, right? Like use your brain, like think, like wouldn't this happen? Wouldn't that, like, doesn't this make sense? But then they get scammed on the exact thing they're supposed to be critically thinking about.
I don't think they like the idea of random and random events. I don't think they like that at all. They want everything to be controlled.
Yeah.
Kind of scary otherwise, don't you think?
Yeah, if there was just randomness in the world, interesting.
Entropy in the universe. You what?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep monitoring this though. I don't think that there's gonna be anything. If it is, cool, but still, it's just a bunch of legal jargon that a bunch of people who are not trained in the law are going to be analyzing and coming to their own conclusions on, that are going to further solidify their batshit insane ideas. So it's gonna be fun dealing with that, internet. All right. So the next bit of story we have here. This one is interesting too. Malware disrupting LA Times and Tribune papers. Am I getting paywalled right now? It's saying you are using a browser set to private or incognito mode. Are you fucking kidding me?
You're getting ransomed by the actual paper.
God damn it. All right. I'm going to read this story to every single person here so they don't have to deal with it. Yeah, apparently there's a malware attack that has disrupted the delivery of the LA Times and Tribune papers across the U.S. And it's actually been targeting the stuff that actually handles printing documents or printing the actual paper. And they've traced it, I guess, the attack to outside of the U.S. And this is a pretty deliberate attack to affect the actual infrastructure of the mainstream media, specifically the Times and other papers. It's actually delayed some of their the distribution of the Saturday editions of the Los Angeles Times and the San Diego Union Tribune, which is interesting. I don't know.
I think though you've actually solved this, like, inadvertently by trying to read this, because I think the root cause of this problem isn't malware. It's just they were using incognito.
Yes, and I guess for some reason they've paywalled themselves into oblivion, and they're not allowed to access their own software because they need to load the Facebook OAuth tokens into every single ad. And yeah, but no, this is definitely an interesting thing because there's people that are attacking this directly. This is very deliberate and very, very calculated to try and pull off an attack like this.
I mean, honest to God, from all the problems that you've just had, it sounds like they fucking deserve it. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Yeah,
like
well,
just
I think
a small taste of their own medicine, at least.
if we're talking about systems though that actually help, that are part of a newspaper supply chain, like a physical access type thing, like they're not very easy to find on Shodan or with mass scan or whatever. Like generally, a lot of the times we've seen critical infrastructure found on Shodan, it's because someone's running VNC publicly or whatever, things like that. Whereas, how do you find the newspaper plant? Like, which plant is it? Where is it? How do you know it's the LA Times one? Like, there's a lot of hows in there.
There's a high
takes a lot of recon.
high probability insider threat going on there.
Absolutely, yeah, because this is the kind of stuff that this was affecting stuff in the plate making facility. Like there was like issues that are like fucking up like the very low level aspects of printing a newspaper. Stuff that I would never even think to even look up on Wikipedia, let alone like actually be interested in attacking. So yeah,
like I think even like if you want to take it to conspiracy kind of nation state level, right? Like Russia, China, etc., North Korea, they're not going to be interested in fucking with the plates. Like seriously, who gives a shit? What they're interested in is the moneymaker and where the actual information is actually coming out of primarily, which is internet based these days. So
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say though, like exactly what we're talking about with the Washington Post getting owned. Like, why would they prevent the newspaper coming out rather than make the tiny changes that could change a whole story? Like, if they're really doing like some sort of psyop like thing to try and disrupt the flow of information, wouldn't they do something a little more subtle?
I think disruption is less. I don't know. It's complex, right? Like if you change a story for psyop reasons, and the newspaper is like, "Hey, they changed the story," that's a major issue, and like that will become a major story. But if you just deny the information going out, like a denial of service, well, meh, it's a story, but it's a quieter story as it manifested.
Well, also, I feel like the most like valuable thing in this case would be access, right? Like being inside, like can yield so much more than any sort of like singular attack.
Yeah, I really feel like this is probably somebody that was jilted that used to work there. Maybe.
I don't know if it was
very complicated thing to do.
Yeah, they did say that it was sourced outside of like the source of the attack was outside of the United States, right?
Oh, I actually missed that part. Oops.
Yeah, so I mean, getting something into that, like, I guess you could probably fish a bunch of factory workers, like the places I've worked at that have had factories. The people who work in the factory had email addresses, and they just had like one machine on the factory floor, or like a couple of machines in an area where they would occasionally check their email, but majority of their day they're not checking emails. Like they don't give a shit about emails. They work in a goddamn factory. But they did have email addresses, and it was on the machine, and it was connected to the network. I believe those machines also weren't connected to like factory equipment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be definitely like an access control issue, right?
Yeah, but I guess you could find the factory through like phishing attempts. Like you don't have a sophisticated user at the end going analyzing email headers, going like, is this a real email from Apple that
I'm just looking at some of the quotes from this article, and one of them says the source would not detail why they believe it came from overseas, stuff like that. I don't know. The whole conversation, right? Like it just seems weird for it to be a nation state. So I guess we'll find out.
I think that this attack, as well as this segment of the episode, was brought to you by NordVPN.
Military grade encryption.
Yeah.
The next one we have, the next story we have here is actually pretty cool. The court says that Vizio's class action lawsuit for their smart TVs can go forward, which is cool because fuck Vizio for doing all this stupid bullshit with literally putting like monitoring every single thing that you watch to some weird database to profile you, even if you're just watching regular cable or anything on your TV, no matter what you're doing.
Somebody started investigating this, I want to say about 6 months ago. Has somebody dumped the database yet or hacked it? Or have we?
I don't think so.
Damn it. Hurry up.
Wait.
Get on there. Chop.
Well, all you have to do is just be the highest bidder in there, however they're selling this.
Yeah, right. You just you call them up, be like, "Hey, can I buy that?" Sure.
But like if we analyze the Chromecast broadcast bullshit that happened way before that you all read about it, and ThugCrowd Discord, come and join our Discord. If you wanted to utilize a smart TV in like there's obviously vulnerabilities in them, right? They're connected to the internet. We've seen that. Like, if you built a private database of like what frequency people were watching, mapped it to the country, like what channel they're watching, like because you can get that from, I guess, from the stream, the DTV stream, the DVB stream, and you would know like exactly what show everyone you've infected is watching, and you'd have a super valuable database that is like marketing gold, right?
Yeah, and you know who wants to buy that? Nielsen ratings. That is the absolute company that would buy that.
So I mean, like this is just like a company who's done it, but there's no reason that like it couldn't be done illegally or by other third parties or TV manufacturers or anyone else.
Yeah, no, I mean it's definitely looking weird. There's like this sort of stuff is becoming obviously more common, but it's cool that people are going to be able to, or that it's getting taken seriously, that people can sue companies for doing sketchy shit like this, which is good. I think that companies should be held accountable for just random stuff that you didn't sign up for and then selling it to people, or just getting hacked and then you just get all your stuff. So good stuff.
Yeah, good times. I'm glad that quick case is going for.
Yeah. Hold on one second. I clicked out of the wrong window. Oh yeah. So, this one's cool. Coinbase is suspending Ethereum Classic after the 51% attack on your network. So yeah, basically, does anybody else want to explain this? Because I'm not that good at explaining crypto concepts. So.
Oh man. Okay.
I'll give a 2-second summary while you get ready for a better one. All right, DNZ. I think this, from what I've gathered so far, I've been reading a little bit about it. The Coinbase, the third party, had to notify them that this was even happening. Nobody even noticed this until they were locked or something, and that's about the extent of how well I'm going to describe it.
Okay, so
hack was like a node takeover, right? So they could verify passes of.
Yeah. So like, all right. So what basically you've got your decentralized network of nodes. Like White Cracker and I were talking about this earlier. There was a different coin that this happened to first, and that was getting the attention, which is probably why this went unnoticed to begin with. And so once you have 51% control of the network, you pretty much have ownership. The TLDR is that you can that there was a double spend bug where you can make 2 transactions at once and they'll go through for a short period of time, and then there'll be a rollback later on the second one. But if it's a deposit and you've already moved it, like, so if you deposit to an exchange, for example, and that's a spend out of your wallet, and then you already buy some other currency, it's on a different chain now. It's too late. You have the money, lol. So that's like kind of why they suspended it, was so that nobody could deposit in and out. Like, and they also advised that other exchanges should freeze all Ethereum Classic transactions at the same time as well, because it affected the chain, not specifically Coinbase. Coinbase were affected as a result of the chain being compromised.
And it looks like it was like around 500,000. How do you suppose they did this?
Oh, so it's by controlling the proof of work, I guess. Usually, like, so the $5,000 is how much it would cost to rent the computing power to control 51% of the blockchain.
So somebody actually went out and just put the resource and money into controlling 51%, or did somebody figure out a way to traffic shape and do some trickery to create an artificial 51%?
I mean, you can artificial 51%. Like, for example, if you have a small chain and you have a single mining pool that is doing a large percentage of the work, you could, like, it's akin to like forcing a net split back on IRC. You knock off all those oppers, and then you take ops yourself, right? So you knock off the mining pool, a large chunk of the work, and then you can now control more nodes that have a larger percentage of work each.
Interesting.
Yeah, and also it's like you can rent out like boxes for like their power. Like people rent out their like unused hashing power.
I honestly really dig these attacks because they're not actually, I don't know, are they actually stealing at that point? Or are they just doing
They are.
a thing?
No, so like the part where the 51%, the double spend, right? That's not necessarily stealing. It's just like inventing temporary money out of. But
Yeah.
by spending that temporary money, that it's already too late because you've already got the goods. So you've now stolen the goods.
Sorry,
we're gonna go to the DMV. We're gonna get an ID. The name says you, but the face is me.
All right.
We're stealing.
It's a cool rhyme.
It's,
yeah.
Fred.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, no, interesting stuff though for just being able to control a majority of the Bitcoin or any coin network, and just seeing people in Discord talking about the different ways that, or the different costs that it would take to actually buy out a network like that, and do this kind of.
It's really
There's
really bad timing because of the fucking crash with Bitcoin and everything. Like to have confidence shaken in any of the bigger blockchain currencies and stuff. That's not cool. It's good. It's only gonna keep going down.
It's disruption, man.
And disrupting my fucking money, man.
There's a website.
The ETC really tied the room together.
What'd you say?
Said the ETC really tied the room together.
Yeah,
there's actually a website that's a list that will tell you how much each coin is 51. You need to 51% it, like what the rental cost.
Oh wow, cool.
Well, yeah. Enough blockchain. Someone already said blockchain drink. So we can move on to the next one. Oh yeah, that's a good link. Crypto 51. But yeah, this another interesting one. This piece by Joseph Cox from today. I gave a bounty hunter $300. Then he located our phone, and it basically just details through the ways in which people are able to leverage public or not public, but data sources that you can buy from various data brokers that do geolocation to track pretty much any phone by just the number.
The telco will do it.
Yeah,
telcos have APIs that you can pay for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this one is just going over the like different ones there are, like Location Smart, Securus. Yeah, Location Smart. Yeah, the one who they had like you could just geolocate anything without even having to pay because they had like a shitty website.
But the one you just mentioned, Location Smart especially, I was reading, and Krebs did an article, I want to say in June or July, about this. And
yes.
Verizon and a few other carriers said, oh, we've cut ties with them. And that was clearly a fucking lie, right? I mean, it had to be a lie.
Yeah, probably.
I
mean,
so we were talking about in Discord last week, the week before, we were talking about someone was talking about getting ISP doxed and stuff like that. And it went down to like, router interfaces and stuff like that. So like from getting your like BSSID, for example, you can then look that up on public databases from, there's a bunch of different ones. And similar, if you were to have access to somebody's like cell phone and you had a list of their partner cells through like, that you can gain through the AT, like an AT command to the modem. You can look that up on like OpenCell ID and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of ways, if like not network-based vectors, to also gain someone's location. Like,
I love those.
Yeah.
All those hidden little things. Those things are fascinating.
No, it just goes to show more and more how easy it is to access any of this sort of data, even if you didn't consent to having it collected. I mean, obviously it's your phone, so it's going to always be transmitting things, but just the fact that companies make it as easy as possible for whoever just has a little bit of money. It's not even that expensive to just really abuse these systems is pretty scary and something that we should be wary of conscious.
I think it's going to require somebody or some corporation to really abuse it in a terrible way in order for change to happen, because this has been going on for how many years now? Like, we've all known about this for a very long time now. So when does it change? My guess, something really ridiculous is going to have to happen.
Well,
Yep.
it was funny, like the UPnP stuff with you, Dan. Like, it was like, yeah, we know about this, but like so many people didn't. That was the hilarious thing.
Yeah, UPnP is fun.
Infamous that covers UPnP.
You should definitely explore UPnP.
Things to look at when you start hacking UPnP.
It's free real estate.
You can fit so many nut tables in this bad boy.
Yeah, the next story that we have in our main news log is Soldier Boy pulling his consoles from his store after a possible Nintendo lawsuit. So if anybody didn't see this coming,
emulators are illegal?
Not even just emulators, just straight, just bootleg consoles that have just shitty games. They're just the worst games.
Dude, he literally went to. Somebody took him to Alibaba and was like, "Did you know you can get white label console?"
Yes, and we have some other interesting news about SODMG Gaming, which we'll be able to discuss after Soldier Boy gets back in contact with us. But yes, the rabbit hole of the shit show of this is just hilarious. There's so many consoles that he sold, and I've seen a lot of really funny reviews of them, where the consoles are just look vaguely like an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4, and you open them up and they're just like this weird, like almost like a Raspberry Pi. It could have just been a Raspberry Pi. I don't know why they wasted yeah, it's like, but like they wasted their time on building their own thing that people already do for way cheaper, and then just have a giant ass case and HDMI and all this other crap. They're terrible. These are terrible consoles. I am very surprised that anybody I don't get how people like think about how long people have been making bootleg NES games and bootleg NES consoles that are like 10,001, and they have like the same 5 games repeated with just palette swaps. I don't understand how people continually 30 plus years of this legacy of bullshit still think that people are going to buy it and think that that's okay and not feel like they got cheated out of like $100.
I think you got to remember the demographic. There's a demographic there. Like, what about Christmas in the Hood, and you want to get your 5-year-old video game?
Right,
no, I completely understand wanting to go for cheap on it, but the fact that we also have so many reviews of these sorts of things, and then the fact that people still buy them is just insane. Like, you can just look up this thing. Every single review of these are negative or incredibly sarcastic, and if you somehow
look, I think what we need to do is clear ThugCrowd label,
console
ThugCrowd private label, and release one. Yeah.
All right. So
let's do it.
We should partner up with Soldier Boy and get him to do it right. Soldier Boy, we'll show you how to. Soldier Boy, if you were listening to ThugCrowd, we'll let you know how to create the console that can't fuck you on.
We'll also let you know how to not use a vulnerable CMS.
It definitely won't mine bitcoins when you're not playing it.
That's a great scam. That's just have an FPGA, just put it into all the rest of the cases in there. Just hook it up to the internet for DRM, and that's it. It goes.
God damn it, that's such a fucking funny idea. I love it.
So yeah, no, great stuff. We'll be we already have been contacting some of those people from AliExpress, so we'll hit them up. Shenzhen, hello. So yeah, but this is interesting though because they're cracking down on this. Nintendo's been releasing a lot of their own consoles. The best thing though is that Soldier Boy said Nintendo isn't going to do shit, and then they did.
Whoa, hang on. I think you misquoted Soldier Boy there. Could you try that again?
Nintendo ain't gonna do shit, all capitals, and Nintendo says we are going to do some shit, and they did, and they're so yeah. I mean, anybody, this is the worst idea. Soldier Boy, I respect your hustle very much, but goddamn, he's trying to make like a gamer league around all this stuff. Like gamer of what? Like literally, like Duck Hunt, like Duck Hunt without a light gun, like. Yeah, that's a great.
A League of Legends console that has like a controller that just does League of Legends, and then just put them in every esports league.
Yeah,
because that game doesn't need a whole great deal to run. Fine games that don't need anything to run, like Fortnite Mobile. Like run Fortnite Mobile on a TV and give it to a 5-year-old, and they'll beat like 30-year-old.
That's very true. So yeah. So the next news, or not a news story, but it's a good read. It was very interesting. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. There was like a fake nude, not really a nude. It was just a weird picture of her that was debunked by foot fetishists. Which this is something that I don't know. It's just very, very 2019. Where somebody tried to release a fake picture of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I know that fucking foot.
holding a dab pen to make her like seem like she's doing something weird. But then there's apparently a wiki called Wiki Feet, which just has a collection of everybody's feet for some reason, and they are just able to identify her feet and say that's not actually her.
Yo, all I got to say is do not fuck with the feet people, okay?
Look,
I want to take everybody back.
I want to take everybody back a little bit. You got to go back to Kate's playground. Does anybody remember Kate from Kate's playground?
Oh God, you better explain it quick, buddy.
Okay, yes. Kate from Kate's playground was famous, obviously because she was a porn star, but also because she had a hoof. And people tracked her down in World of Warcraft with Taurens called like "What the Hoof" and like pointed at her because she had like a deformed foot, so everybody knew it was really her because she had the deformed foot.
Yeah,
so like foot fetish identification has been done before. This has come around. It's come and gone.
Yeah, it's very interesting though because like we have people. I mean, I've been looking a bunch into like how deep fakes are actually distributed and like what software people use and stuff, and it's really creepy. The way that people are using it, which is a whole other different topic. But just the fact that the people that have just painstakingly collected images of people's feet are just able to somehow just give back credibility to somebody on like a very, very like annoying character like defamation like tactic. Just some guy like, oh no, I know those feet. Like it's just very it's so,
there's some guy sitting in front of a computer seeing the picture come across his screen. He goes, that's fucking bullshit. I know.
Yeah,
feet are
it's the actually guy, the actually meme guy. That's like literally come to life. Just like actually, yeah, beautiful stuff. So all you weirdos.
Will, I can't believe that you have a post on that from 2004. That is gangster that you still have.
Wow. Holy crap.
Interesting. It's not Osin, it's Tosin. All right, let's get off of this topic before we go. That was a great.
That's funny.
So yeah, the next good read we had though was interesting. It was the best Florida man of the year. Florida man stumbled on the biggest prime number after working on an I-5 for 12 days straight. Does anybody have any idea of how this sort of thing works? I feel like in this realm of mathematics, when you're just doing this shit, I feel like there's been supercomputers doing this for like ever. I don't know how.
There's
one random guy.
There's a blockchain based on prime number on finding prime number.
Yeah, it's called
GIMP, the Great Internet Mersenne Prime Search. So basically, they generate Mersenne primes, which are 2 to the n minus 1, and you check if 2 to the n minus 1 is prime for some giant number n, and you just have a computer checking for days to check if it's prime or not. And so this guy happened to get a number that was prime. His computer spent 12 days verifying that, and then he got to say, "Hey, I found a prime."
Yeah, and he did it he had only been doing it for like 3 months, and it's worth noting that people have been trying to do this same thing for like 5 years and haven't found one.
Well, no, they've been finding them. This is just the largest one that they've found, I think.
Oh yeah.
So with the n, like, where does the n come from? Is it just like a random seed, like
N has to be prime.
Yeah, it's n is prime, and then I think they just incrementally do the next n. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I suppose if n isn't, like, if n comes from a known list, then it would be not that hard to distribute across, like, however, I don't know how the blockchain that the proof of work is based on finding primes works.
Yeah, so it's not a blockchain, it's just a distributed computing thing. So if I think the website is like gimps.org. I actually don't go to that. Google it. Great Internet Mersenne Prime Search.
Yeah, it's like folding at home, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they have a little wiki or an explanation of how everything works. But you just download the software. You can run. I had it running for a few months on a OpenBSD. You can run it on pretty much any operating system.
So if you strike out on your own and find a prime, the EFF will pay you if you can find a prime that has 100 million digits. This prime that this guy found was something like 25 million digits.
I think you still get like a smaller amount of money. I think it's like $5,000 or $10,000 for the largest prime anyway.
It's $3,000. GIMPs will pay you $3,000 if you find the largest prime, but EFF will pay you $100,000 if you can find 100 million digit prime, which would take ridiculous amounts of processing power.
Yeah.
So so the blockchain thing I was talking about is actually called Prime. And looking at it, like, why don't we just start our own chain, and then every time a block is found, we give somebody some useless tokens and we take the cash.
Yeah.
That seems like a really good idea. That's it. So it's going to be called Thug Primes, and you can download the client in the next half an hour.
Yeah, Florida man does a cool thing. Sounds like oh yeah,
win for Florida man.
The next good read that we have here is incredible. This is Julian Assange has put a list of 140 things that you cannot say about Julian Assange.
Have you actually read this thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Awesome.
This is awesome. This is just, I don't know who wrote this. This reminds me of like an Adderall binge. This is like mania. This is very, very strange to have sit and like sat and written all this stuff. Just saying that like he's not a computer hacker or a computer programmer, or that he stinks, or that he's member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Like there's so many just absolutely.
Assange is a computer programmer.
Yeah, he definitely is.
He wrote some like really good shit back in the day. Strobe and Mary and like what the fuck?
He absolutely stinks too. I'm gonna put it out there. Every single fucking human stinks. Prove me wrong.
He also, I asked to pose a question, but I got no response from WikiLeaks. Is it false or defamatory to claim that Julian Assange absolutely rips it up on the dance floor? And it's
like a deep fake.
No, that's Julian Assange.
Oh, that's funny, man.
Here, I will post this in the chat here.
I'm gonna fucking.
He literally tears it up. He's doing like these Vogue dances. These are like some like deep house like Paris is burning, like crazy ass dance, which is like, boom, boom, like I don't know. I couldn't get enough of that when I first saw that, and then I guess that isn't false or defamatory because they didn't make any statements that used their hashtags. So I don't know.
That is really funny. I honest to God thought it was just some rando wearing like a mop head wig, doing some techno dancing.
No, the best part is that came from some random DJ who just was DJing a club and just someone's like, "Oh shit, that's Julian Assange," and then they found out that it was him, and he just was with a bunch of WikiLeaks people in Iceland.
Insane.
So yeah, definitely. I don't know what this could signal or why this would have come out. Okay, yeah, came out.
I don't know. I think it's pretty much like putting all negatives to what he has done. So if you find something that I haven't actually recognized before, it's probably he did it or something.
This is like what is it? It's like known bad versus known good. It's just I don't know why you would put all this stuff out there. Just like a
I
list.
feel like again, this is WikiLeaks is obviously heavily followed and contributed to by the ThugCrowd, and maybe their critical thinking was a little too critical all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has the effect of, right, whatever reason you put this out, like, definitely backfired. Because, Jesus Christ.
I now just want to sit down with Julian Assange and ask him 140 things.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I want to say to him, like, these exact 140 things, and then be like, thank you for the...
Was your mother a hippie?
Who the
No.
fuck cuts your hair like that?
False and defamatory.
The last little bit here that we have before we can bring Andrew on in our Goodreads is AT&T misleading customers by updating phones with a fake 5G thing. This reminds me of like a bootleg phone, like where they would like put like HD. Actually, I bought an DVD one time that said that it was an HD. No, it said that it was HD Blu-ray, and I said, "Is this really a Blu-ray? Is this HD?" And they said, "No, the company is called Blu-ray HD." That's kind of what it reminds me of, where it's just some random technical thing that they can put on there to just trick anybody who would believe it into thinking that for some reason it's 5G.
So basically, they've just changed the image in the build, right? They've changed the sticker.
This is something that Sprint and Friends usually does. I'm surprised to see AT&T doing it. I saw a couple people on my Twitter actually get really excited that, oh, my phone's been upgraded to 5G yesterday or the day before, and then a fucking day later, the news story comes out that it's fake. That's just...
So how was this delivered though? Like, is this image, is it delivered as part of the firmware, or is it delivered over like
so usually for iPhones, it's like an iOS, a small iOS update that comes OTA. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like part of carrier configuration OTA.
No, it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's the carrier configuration. It's not actually part of the iOS update itself.
Nope.
Yeah, nice.
Stuff.
That's fucking...
It's just ridiculous that they just changed it. And that's
it. The carrier's like, lol, just send this shit out.
I mean, yeah, because you can, if you're in control of the cell tower, you can change the banner to whatever the hell you want. You really can. You can push anything to cell phones that connect to you. So
yeah,
they could push out like 12G, and people would be like, "Whoa, I'm extra awesome. I got 12G now." But and then downgrade them to like 56K modem speeds. Yeah, 9G. I saw that the T-Mobile guys were having some fun with it, and they just like put a post-it sticker over it saying 9G and saying, "Congratulations, you've been upgraded." And I think AT&T deserves to get put in the barrel for a little bit for this, because fuck lying to people about their service. Scammers.
Shout out to T-Circ and Dade for subbing. A bunch of people that are subbing. Thanks to all of you guys for in the sleep. Thanks for coming in and subbing to us. This is cool. But yeah, this is it for the news segment. We should just get into our interview with Andrew Morris. Can you hear us, Andrew?
I think so. Is this thing on?
Hey, it's on.
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
Hi.
Yo, yo, yo.
Hey. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Anytime.
No problem. Hold on one second. I got to give Dade a role here. Dade, you should be able to chat in our Discord now. Alrighty.
Cleared. You can check.
It should be, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, hey, what's up?
What's going on, guys? Hey. So I just like have on my screen left over from earlier, I have the subnets that you guys have been scanning the internet from, and I'm like looking at you guys scanning the internet over these last these last 2 weeks.
Wait, what?
I'm scanning it. What are you talking about?
Whose source ID do you have?
I don't know. Whose do I have?
A few of us.
Am I already like putting people on blast right now?
All right, I gotta go.
No.
All right, never mind.
Not at all. But actually here. So this makes sense to everybody. How about you introduce yourself and GreyNoise?
Yeah, I'd love to. So my name's Andrew Morris. I'm the founder of a nerd project turned into a company called GreyNoise. And so basically GreyNoise is I'll give you guys the nerd version, and then I can give you the pitchy version that I try to sell to people. The nerd version is GreyNoise is a system. It's like a giant distributed passive internet scanner collection system that's kind of like a bunch of honeypots, a little different, but I don't have to get into that. And we literally soak up internet scan and attack traffic. It's just passive. We look at people scanning the internet, and it's kind of like internet weather reporting. We look at what people are looking at, what people are scanning for, what people are crawling for, all that kind of stuff. And we do trending analysis. We find compromised devices. We try to track as infected devices, crawl, spread, and infections crawl, and as infections propagate and things like that. So basically that's me. That's GreyNoise. That's kind of my spiel so far. And then I guess, so we got hooked up because you guys asked me to come on maybe a month ago, maybe right around when all that printer stuff was happening.
Maybe.
Oh yeah.
You remember it was it was the PewDiePie thing at first, and then it was the printer as a service thing that we found.
Yes, the printer as a service, amazing
Mass printing as a service,
reach everybody in the world.
Yeah, guerrilla marketing as a service.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Since it's actually open, unauthenticated, just kind of waiting publicly, is it fair game?
I mean, well, you have free agency as a human being. You can do whatever you want. Is it a good idea? I don't know. Are they? It's just crafty. I guess it depends. With this thing specifically, so more broad. People scan the internet. If you don't want people to scan your stuff, don't have it be exposed to the internet. Boom, easy. Is it a good idea to blast something out of people's printers? Is that a good idea? I don't know. Do you not want to go to jail, right? Or what do you like? So is it a good idea? I don't know. Honestly, I don't have a good answer for you. It's hilarious. I think it's funny. I'm not gonna pontificate that you're making the world a better or worse place. Do you, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I was just kind of more tongue in cheek there anyways.
Yeah, well, fair.
But what you just referred to, the scanning of the internet, the cartography, that perspective of it, that's something that's that personally I've gotten in a bunch of fights with a bunch of providers over, because running Nmap is apparently a crime against humanity.
It's really weird,
right? And so I'm wondering how you've dealt with that and what your trials and tribulations.
So I don't have much experience scanning the internet, honestly. So almost everything I've ever done, I've been working on this problem. I've been working on the internet scanner like tracking internet scanners problem for like years now. So I mean, since I like got serious and like really interested in it in like, I don't know, like 2011, 2012. And so like for me personally, like I have scanned, I've done a lot of internet scanning, but it's just really not like my big jam. So everything I've done is passive. So what that means is like providers don't care what I do. Like I literally just sit there and soak up internet. I soak up the other people that are scanning the internet. So like from my own experience, like, no one's ever cared what I do from a passive like collection perspective. Now the times that I have like reached out and scanned the internet, like I've done it before on a cloud provider that I had a good relationship with. And so like, I knew the security team and I just basically told them like, hey guys, heads up, I'm about to scan the internet. This is what I'm scanning the internet for. You guys are going to get abuse complaint reports. Just forward them to me and I'll blacklist anybody who gets mad about it. And everyone's like, yep, all right, cool. That's fine. Right. Like that is like a good way to handle it. That is one way to handle it. And really it just depends on like the internet service provider or the hosting provider. Now there's like something to be said. Like the reason, like, I think it's like a big part of it is like, there are a lot of really shitty security products out there that will scream bloody murder when they get scanned. Right. Or like, there's like software and like things that are like firewalls that are written and stuff like that, where people will be like, oh my God, like somebody scanned his port, like this person is APTing me. And it's like, that's probably not the case. And so, maybe there's a little bit of catastrophizing on the side of like certain security products. I think that's bad and dumb. Maybe there was a day and age where like if somebody was scanning you on a certain port, like maybe they were out to get you, but like, I don't know, like that, it doesn't feel like that's the case. I mean, it really doesn't feel like that's the case anymore.
Like,
so like,
finger,
it's
like finger D, like that's not a normal, like,
Yeah, exactly. So like, honestly, there's a lot of different ways that I could answer that question, I think. But like with me personally, it's just like, I don't know, people are going to scan the internet. People have started companies around scanning the internet, like tons of people. Like we all know John at Shodan, like right. he does it. Like he's been doing it for years. He's been doing it longer than anybody else has. And like, he has good relationships with his hosting providers and all that. He's responsible about it. But everyone's a critic. Everyone's got an opinion on the right and the wrong way to do it. There's other people who build businesses around scanning the internet and not advertising where they do it from. And look, hey, power to them too. Like, I guess it's one of those things where it's kind of like anxiety or like something like that, where, if your systems are getting hacked, if your internet facing systems are getting hacked by like blatantly, easily exploitable remotely exploitable vulnerabilities facing the perimeter, like your problem isn't that people can scan you. Your problem is that you have a bunch of dumbasses running your vulnerability management program or your perimeter or your firewall or something like that, right? Yeah. Like that's the real problem.
Yeah, bravo. And I would imagine as part of the overall spread from GreyNoise, you guys definitely see all the port scans that are going on, but probably those aren't rated as a threat instantly. It's other factors that are tacked onto it.
So you mean like when we dictate whether something's good or bad?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. So actually, you want me to talk about that a little bit, like how we make that good and bad decision?
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So like a big part of GreyNoise is like we look at internet scanners. So everyone who's ever scanned the internet since GreyNoise existed, like approximately a year and a half ago, we have like recorded in a database somewhere. Sorry. And so like we have everybody gets logged and tagged, and we basically put everybody into one of three buckets. Like you're in the good bucket, you're a good guy, benign, or you're a bad guy, you do something bad, you're malicious, or we just don't have sufficient information to make a decision yet, so you're unknown, right? So we make all of the bad decisions. Like we have like so we have like a custom streaming analytics service that basically just looks at everything that happens and applies a bunch of matching analytics onto it. So then basically like that's what does all of this decision making. And so then basically we like write a bunch of signatures and they fire as we collect more data, and everything gets sorted into those buckets, right? And so then for something to get called bad, it has to do something that's basically a violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Somebody has to try to log into a system that doesn't belong to them, e.g. one of our systems, or somebody has to throw an exploit, or somebody has to do something that basically exhibits behavior that only an infected or a malicious host would exhibit, right? So it means like scanning somebody, that's not bad. Banner grabbing somebody, that's not bad. Trying to exploit shell shock on their device, that's probably bad, right? So that's how we do bad and malicious. Benign is less based on what you do and is more based on where you come from. And so what that means is like we have basically like we build relationships, and like I call these people on the phone who run like Shodan, Census, Project Stone, or Binary Edge, like all of those people. Like I know all of those people. I have relationships with all those people, and so I do a bunch of research to figure out where those scans are going to be coming from. And I know like, look, these guys are probably not going to be violating CFAA, and I check that in the data, and then basically they keep doing their scans from the places that they say they're doing it. They advertise themselves appropriately. They get a benign tag, a benign label, and we're basically like, okay, there you go. You're a good guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I just want to make one thing, or touch on one thing that you mentioned, the CFAA being your decision point. I'm assuming you don't mean that literally.
No, I don't mean that literally.
Yeah, the CFAA.
I mean, yeah, the CFAA is completely fucking stupid.
Yeah, we're like not huge fans of it. I would say mostly.
Yeah, no, the CFAA. Yeah, I'm in complete agreement that the CFAA is a completely broken piece of legislation. When I say that,
malicious.
Do what?
You just mean obviously malicious.
I mean obviously malicious. Yeah,
that's
right.
But yeah, I mean that kind of thing. Though, I can see how that would be a barrier or a set of guidelines that you would use to determine adversarial behavior.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm way more of like an analyst than I am a lawyer. So like, I honestly like I couldn't tell you the first thing about CFA in and of itself. But yeah, so like I just know like this is a thing that like this means you're trying to do something that you're not allowed to be doing, right?
Hey, let me ask you, how do you deal with IP reuse? So like VPS providers.
Oh God, it's a nightmare. Yeah. So basically, like a big part of it is it's there's a temporal drift. So that's a really, really good question. When we call something good or bad, that label, and so what that means is like, and to your point exactly, I mean, like tons of people spin up boxes on AWS, DigitalOcean, Linode, something like that, scan the internet really quick, and then they tear them down. That IP is useless, hours later. So everything gets aged off. And so that basically just means that like when we stop seeing the thing, or when we're reasonably sure that the thing is no longer doing what we thought it was doing, then that's when that label or that association would wear off, or some period of time goes by. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's cool. Nice.
And then on our side as well, like it's also important for us, like while we're enriching, so the way GreyNoise works is there's everything goes through a tremendous amount of enrichments through like just data enrichments through different like upstream services, GeoIP, RDNS, like just stuff like that, right? And one of those things is like we have a lot of like kind of internal data sets that are like, okay, here's this IP. Is this coming from a residential network? Is this coming from a cloud hosting network where it's very likely that this IP address has been reused or will be reused, or is a even reusable IP address? Is this coming from a business network, like something like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's actually a question from Twitch chat.
Yeah. What's up?
Somebody just asked, how does spoofing affect all this?
Oh God, spoofing makes my life so much harder. So like basically I could talk about this for hours, like literally hours. So IP spoofing, so for those who aren't aware, IP spoofing is just like on the internet, or for internet scanning, it basically just means like this is when somebody is on like a more relaxed network that doesn't prevent this kind of thing from happening, right? For better or worse.
Yeah, those terms. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll leave it there. They're on a network where the operators are relaxed, and they basically spray packets to every corner of the internet, but with a spoofed source address. Presumably to never get their response, right? They will never get the response. And there can be no state that's maintained unless you're like, you have nation state God mode powers and you're able to tell, what the the sequence numbers would line up to, and blah 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 blah. Right? I'm not even going to get into that. And it's just when people send fake packets that are basically the packets are real, but the source address is wrong, and they say like, hey, like I'm scanning the whole internet for port 23 TCP from 8.8.8.8, which I see every day. And it's like, Google Public DNS isn't actually doing that, right? So how do we deal with spoofed traffic? Like, basically, there's a few different ways. One is to bucket up like spoofed traffic to do stuff like before I even say, like, this is so funny. Like, yeah, this is like a question I really wish that somebody would have, like, I would have asked somebody like years ago. The first thing that you do is like, you basically want to, like, there's certain kinds of spoof traffic that you can just like immediately bucket off, put over into a different, you can catalog and categorize off like UDP, ampli DDoS, reflective DDoS backscatter. Like, that's something that you can detect and say like, yep, this is backscatter, disregard this. That's one thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do is basically to just don't put anyone into, like, make sure every IP as you're processing stuff goes into a, hey, we saw this, like, we've seen a handshake actually established from this thing, and we've never seen a handshake established from this, right? Like, it's one thing to see a SYN packet from, 1.2.3.4, but it's another thing to see a completed TCP three-way handshake from 1.2.3.4, right? And so, like, just making sure that the way that you do everything is aware of all of that kind of stuff, and that you don't harp too much on things that are, quote, spoofable. Hope that answers your question. If you have any other further follow-up questions, ping me on Twitter, because I can talk about this for hours. And anybody in the room, like, feel free to tell me to go fuck myself if I say anything that you think is incorrect, because I'm...
No, I would never do that.
No. But so one of the things that we were interested in, and some of the questions from Skelsec, who would love to be here, but can't, was more about your backend and how you actually pull this off. So, like, you've described a bit about your process for processing or interpreting this data, but we wanted to know kind of how you actually do it. Like, do you run your own honeypots? Do you do Shodan searches? Are you getting some other feeds from other services? I guess how I mean, without revealing too much of your internals that you would be trade secret, I guess, how does one actually start mapping out this sort of data?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm going to just talk about it like a little bit at a high level, and then you can anything say in like any more depth. So basically at a high level, like, we collect all of our own data. So everything comes from like stuff that we do ourselves. And we do that for a handful of different reasons. One is because like the fidelity of the data is extremely important. And two, it's really important that people don't know where our collector nodes are located. So we run our own like collector nodes in all these different cloud hosting providers, like in literally hundreds of them around the internet. And we make sure that nobody knows where they are, because if people know where they are, they can pollute our data set by either giving us fake data or by skipping our nodes so that we're blind to them, right? So basically, like, I've actually given some talks on this in the past. Like, I gave a talk on this at ShmooCon this time last year, and I've given some more in the past. Like, stand up, like, this is what you could do if you wanted to build a similar system. Like, stand up a bunch of like honeypots in a bunch of different cloud hosting providers and just correlate the data that comes between them. What we do is, like, basically we have a bunch of honeypots that are running. I don't like using the term honeypot because it implies that we're like trying to bait attackers and we're trying to lure attackers in, but that's not true. Right?
Yeah. They're endpoints.
Yeah, they're endpoints. So I always say like nodes or like, collectors or stuff like that. They're boxes, but I don't like the H word, because the H word just implies that we're trying to make them look sexy and bait people in. We're trying to get the bottom of the barrel, right? We're trying to get everybody that's hitting the internet. We're not trying to get, sexy bad guys. So anyways,
I got a quick question, follow-up question that my audio fucked up before. I'm sorry to
no worries.
But all right, so you mentioned like spoof packets. Like, a technique we used to use Yonder was actually just only receiving the ACK on a different machine. So sending from one and receiving from another. Is that something that you guys end up bucketing, like throwing in that bucket that you discard, or is that something you still see? Like, is it still on the internet?
What?
So wait, I know the tactic that you're talking about. This is like, blasting, basically spoofing SYN, but having a spoofed source IP so that all the SYN ACK goes to another IP, but that other IP is also something that you control, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you're doing it for throughput purposes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just trying to blast this in, get the result. You don't really care about the handshake.
Yeah, we totally see that. Yeah.
Is that labeled? Is that categorized?
Well, no, because it's unknowable to us. Like, we don't know that it's happening, but you're still like we still it's irrelevant because all the people that are going to be consuming the data are also going to be seeing that spoofed address.
Lovely. Good to know.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, cool, man. Nice.
Yeah, I kind of feel, I don't know, I feel some like tongue in cheek. Like, is there something I'm missing here?
No.
We're joking around. It's something both God Day. Is that your name today?
Yeah, that's my name today.
And we've had many discussions about this and like the ideas of how to get basically how to get around the barriers of these hosting providers that are so willing to shut your server down.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and like the hosting providers that you are able to do that kind of attack on are generally like you've got deadies and they've got like shitty network setups. Like you're not doing it on Amazon's SDN or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen some DEF CON talks a couple years back where a guy described some really cool methods of doing similar reflection spoofed scans to collector boxes, and I think it's a slick idea if you can pull it off.
Yeah. I mean, so there's some other stuff to be said. Like, I think HD did this shit like a million years ago, basically just like looking at like TTL values and like doing pingbacks to basically see how like routes would change and stuff like that. Like, there's other really crafty active stuff that you can do to detect spoof traffic. This is like one of those hard problems, right?
Yeah.
But there's other stuff that is like, I guess there's other cool stuff that you can do, especially if you have an active position or if you have like other like sources. From my perspective, like if you're the on kind of the defensive side or like looking to track. If you're looking to evade, like, I mean, like, there's a reason why a lot of people will spin up, boxes on cloud hosting providers, blast the internet once, and then tear it down and never use it again. It's because it makes people like my lives really hard.
So on that, when you're when you see traffic, a scan coming from Amazon, for example, just using Amazon as an example, Amazon already, like if you run Nmap with like, a SYN scan, it already kills your connection and you get a warning letter and you have to respond to. So do you sort of like judge that if it's coming from one of the providers that doesn't allow scanning, it's probably less malicious? Or
no, there's nothing sexy like that. Like basically like everything is either good, unknown, or bad. And like, it's pretty hard to trip and fall into one of those buckets if you're not actually like it's signatures, but they're still relatively durable, because like I prefer, like when I'm building this stuff out, like I prefer to be correct and to have less coverage than to take liberties and do like heuristics and get more coverage, but have it be like more inaccurate and to have it be more evadable. So like, it's pretty hard to get around a lot of the stuff that we do. Like, so, and which I know wasn't your question exactly, but no, whether you're coming from Amazon or something, that has no bearing of whether we call something good or bad.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Ian Coldwater here in Voices Voice, asking about how you set up your infrastructure in the cloud, which is, you're describing managing quite a large number of nodes that are distributed all over the place. How do you actually manage something at scale?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So that's another kind of talk in and of itself. At a high level, like for a long time, I used Terraform, which is a really great multi vendor.
Bling, bling.
Sorry.
I just said bling bling. But
Oh yeah. So like, yeah, I used Terraform for a long time. That's a really great like multi-cloud, tool. And then basically like, there's a tremendous amount of nodes, and they're all going up and coming down kind of like all the time, or not all of them, but a lot of them are going up and coming down all the time. Because we need to get an accurate picture of what the internet scanners look like, and we have to account for people that have God mode on the internet and that are figuring out ways to fingerprint where our nodes are. And so we just want to make people's lives as difficult as humanly possible who are trying to skip our stuff. So nodes are always like flying around, and things are always going up and coming down, and they always look different no matter like where they go. So like basically like everything is custom once the server actually gets up, but to get the servers up, like for a long time we use Terraform, which is a really great place to start. Somebody asked something about the backend earlier. So all of the servers, like the whole, like almost everything is custom, like home written that I wrote. Certain things are like I use certain like open source pieces of software, but like I wrote a log forwarder that scans like log files and ships them off to a RabbitMQ, and then gets, consumed by a bunch of Rabbit consumers that pulls them apart and puts certain things in Postgres and puts certain other things in Elasticsearch. And then the APIs talk to the Postgres and the Elasticsearch respectively, depending on what the endpoints are that it's looking for. And all the while in between that, the data is getting enriched and with other data sources that we use from like a bunch of other.
That's really cool. Now, as far as the things that you've written, are these sort of, I guess, nodes that you have deployed? Are they just listening? Like we're trying to imagine how you do this. Where do you have just like netcat? Well, it would be something like where you're just listening in for ping connections, or
Yeah.
Any protocol spoofing or protocol?
Yeah. That's a great question. So like, this is one of those that I have a hard time blowing my secret sauce.
No, absolutely. So
it's like my answer to this is like all of those.
Okay.
Yeah. So like all of those. The answer to all of them. Yes.
Well, no, that makes sense. I mean, it would be in your best interest to diversify as much as possible, where no one can predict anything at all when you're doing that. To have asymmetrical, I guess, warfare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think of it like from like I'm a guy who scans the entities, and I also want to discovery is one part. Discovery attacks is one part, right? And then just like protocol emulation and like all that kind of stuff is another thing. So like we emulate a lot of protocols, like yes. And then like there's like certain other things where like it really just depends. Like with certain things, like certain actors and certain like scanners and certain things like that, like you have to do a lot. And with others, you don't really have to do much. Certain people will literally sling exploits to even like hosts that aren't even vulnerable to things. And it's like, wow, thanks.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, so, and I don't know if you want to reiterate it or not, but did I hear you say that there are some cases that you have set up where it will interact with
like a protocol?
Yeah, the kit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, neat. Good stuff. How long did it take to get yourself to a place where you really thought this is a nice product? This is a good deal.
I am not there yet.
Well, okay.
So I mean, I'm gonna say that forever.
Yeah, sure.
It's honestly like it's better today than it's ever been, and it kicks ass today. People pay money for like, the, which is great. And it provides a lot of value, but like at least like in my brain, it's providing like 25% of the value that it is going to ultimately be providing to customers. To answer your question specifically, like how long did it take? A long fucking. I built the first version of this system in like 2011. And I've been iterating on it since then, and I've been wrong so many times. And this is it starting to finally make sense.
Amazing.
Yeah, like
it's a question I ask for a variety of reasons, but one of them is a pretty big focus on this show is for people that are kind of younger and starting out in tech and infosec, etc. And hearing stories like this and how like the inception to like this monster known as GreyNoise is now like a behemoth. That's really cool to hear about.
Yeah, and like honestly, I didn't like I guess like my advice to my own younger self, things just start small and they just get bigger, and you just like it just doesn't resonate with people until it's the right thing, and that's when you start really like traveling down that rabbit hole. And like for me, it wasn't really until I started looking at this system, like for every project and every system and every undertaking, it's going to be completely massively different. Like that thing that actually sets it over the edge to being something that people give a shit about. For GreyNoise, it ended up being like, look, like it basically ended up being like, this is not sexy. Like it ended up being like, this is noise. This is the stuff that's hitting everybody on the whole internet. Look how much there is. Like it's everywhere. There's so much of it, right? That's basically what it was. And people were like, yeah, there is so much of it. Like, especially people who have worked as like firewall admins or IDS admins and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, you're right. There is a bunch of shit everywhere. And I'm like, I know, this is the scan stuff that's hitting everybody. That was a big part of it. That phrasing and getting people to feel that way. Another part of it was like that I just started doing the labeling. I just kept waiting for people to see stuff and it to just make sense in people's heads, to just be like, oh yeah, here's a log where somebody's like looking for JBoss and nothing else. And I'm like, oh, like maybe this thing is a JBoss worm, right? Or, things where it's like, certain other things. And then I just started basically applying those labels. Or like this thing is coming from Shodan's ASN, right? Like maybe this is Shodan. Maybe they're good, right? And then like putting those labels, like just starting to label it. And that ended up being what like really resonated with people. And this is like, that's like 7 years into like the development of this system. And so it's like, you just, I don't know, don't quit.
Do you mind me asking what you did in the meantime? Because obviously at a certain point when you're first starting up, your startup is it's not gonna bring you money immediately. So you have to have kind of like a side thing. Do you mind me asking, were you doing just general IT work at the time, or?
Oh yeah. So there's two answers to that. I was a pen tester, and then I worked in cybersecurity for since 2012, and I've been involved in cybersecurity since like 2006. But I've been like in the security industry since 2012, as a pen tester, as like a broader security consultant, and then as a cybersecurity, like on a cybersecurity R&D team over at Endgame. And so I did that for a bit, and then just trying to like get this thing right. And like, and I even tried doing it like with some of the companies that I was working with at the time, but like they just didn't kind of really get it the way that I got it. And like there was politics and all kinds of other stuff. And so then eventually I was just like, nobody fucking gets this. Everyone's going to get it wrong. Like I have to do this myself.
It seems
I hate it, but I do.
It seems like it's worked out the best.
Sorry.
No other company got ownership over it. Sorry, Dean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of amped about that in retrospect. Sorry, what's up?
I was just going to ask, is there a specific thing that like have you found stuff on the internet before other people that you've just gone like, holy shit, like, and is there anything anecdotally maybe that you can? I appreciate if you can't answer something, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I know what you're getting at. I remember there was one really so one thing that was really neat for me that I'm going to tell two quick stories. One that was really neat is like seeing Mirai be built slowly for years before this shit hit the fan with Dying DM. You guys remember that?
This is a good story. Yeah, tell it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like literally like I just remember seeing like, because again, remember, I've been building this system and rebuilding it for years. So I remember in 2013, 2014, 2015, like running all of these at the time, just honeypots, and seeing like all these like very small sets of credentials being brute forced. And it was literally like password sets of like 15 passwords. And I'm like, what kind of dumbass bad guy tries to brute force somebody with 15 passwords? Like, what an idiot. And then it like registered in my brain that I'm like, no, these are probably for 15 specific devices. And then it was like, oh, probably everyone that tries to use these 15 credentials is probably owned too. And then it was like, holy shit, like there's hundreds of thousands, like millions of these devices around the internet that are trying these same sets of credentials. And then I'm like, oh dear God, like this is a botnet, right? And then like, you know, at the time I wasn't like I was gonna like run news or anything. And I didn't want to be all like Chicken Little, the sky's falling, but it was just like, holy shit, like this stuff is out here. Like there's a lot of stuff that's happening like this. And then I think it was 2016, right? Like December or January or something, like right there around, like that big ass DDoS attack happened with Dyn. It took down everybody, and people were like, what is this new botnet called Mirai? And I was like, guys, this like, yeah. And then they're like using some new technology called Telnet and IoT devices with MIPS boards.
Admin.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, what the fuck? And this is like, so I see all of this, and I like, that was one of the really cool things where it was like, this is hitting everybody and nobody gives a shit. And I see it the whole way. And to be fair, like I didn't really understand it at the time. Like I understand it perfectly in retrospect, but I'm seeing this all and I'm just like, this is, so the Mirai thing was fun. And then there was another thing that happened in probably 2017 where this was really cool. There was a, it was that this one's kind of tough because I feel like I might be like throwing somebody under the bus. So I'm going to be a little like, just like a little bit vague. There was a vulnerability that was released. And basically there was a kind of like one of those companies that does like exploit development, right? And they do exploit development and vulnerability research. And they released this blog post about this vulnerability in an embedded system that they found. And they were like, here's this, it's a big deal, like patch your shit, like everybody do this. And then everyone patched their shit. And it was, you know, it was like, you know, it was a, we'll say like, you know, a Linksys vulnerability. It wasn't, but we'll say it was a Linksys vulnerability, right? And so then everyone like goes and they patch their shit. So then I went back and I looked in GreyNoise, and when I did a time series analysis, like it was like 30 or 60 days before this thing happened, this university was scanning the internet like crazy for the port that this service ran on 30 or 60 days before this thing was released. What it ended up being was there was a three-way, I don't know this. What I believe happened was that basically the company was like, hey, we found this vulnerability in your piece of software, Linksys. And Linksys was like, oh shit. And then they reached out to a university, either to a friend or a cohort, or maybe they had, you know, like staff or like a relationship or something. And they were like, look, we have no clue how bad this is going to be. Like, can you tell us? Like, we don't know how many of these devices are out there or where they are. Like, can you tell us? So then they scanned the internet for that port looking for that thing before anyone else knew about this vulnerability. And like, I could piece that all together from like a precursor to GreyNoise. And I was looking at it, I was like, holy shit.
That's awesome.
Nice.
It's
like tracking the disclosure timeline almost.
Yeah, exactly. And also like, so now same thing, but looking forward in time, because that's a lot more common. CVE comes out, how long until everyone starts opportunistically exploiting it? What's the operationalization timeline? How long does it take for a CVE to come out and for bad guys to look at it, you know, pull it apart, really understand it well enough to weaponize it in their shitty botnet and start slinging it around everywhere, right? Because that's the amount of time that people really need to give a shit about. That's how much time you have to patch your shit before you're really owned, right?
It seems like the sweet spot's 48 hours, right?
I don't know. It completely depends with everybody. A lot of it depends on media coverage. I've noticed that the more hyped that something gets, the faster the more the bad guys work. I've also noticed that the first people to scan are always security researchers. They're never bad. They're never like criminals. It's always like the security that are like, "Ooh, I gotta search for this real quick," and then like there's like a few days or a week, and then it's like the bad guys start actually exploiting it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
That's
I
very
guess you'd be a good person to gauge Exploit Wednesday. How legitimate is Exploit Wednesday?
I actually don't know. So you're talking about like Patch Tuesday and
Yeah, Patch Tuesday, Exploit Wednesday.
yeah. Honestly, like for me, like I don't know, just because like Patch Tuesday is like mostly for like, you know, Windows. And when you think about the markup of most of the stuff that's facing the internet, and you think about like pieces of software that are mostly going to be affected by that, like I don't know that there's enough data to see like a good correlation. I can tell you that enough of the internet scan stuff is manual that I see sizable dips over the weekend. So like there's literally people who like just don't scan the internet over the weekend as much as they do during the week.
As a whole.
Yeah.
Worldwide. That's interesting.
I have absolutely no idea.
So I guess
I would guess
people-
it's because I would guess that for some people it's their job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
How nuts is that? Especially when you think about how easily automatable and croned this thing is, right? But like I see stuff like that, like there's all kind, dude, there is this. So the reason, like the stuff that we're talking about right now, all of these weird nuances and unexplainable things, this is what has dragged me into this problem for so long. This is why I've been obsessed with this for so long, because it's just like unlimitedly weird and complicated and fun and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially the last two, fun and interesting. You get to see the craziest stuff probably on a weekly basis.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting I've been really cool. Like I've been really lucky to have enough people looking at the data, and having looked at the data long enough myself to have like chipped away at a lot of like the mysteries of yesterday. Like there have been a lot of things where like I just never understood what it was, and then I learned, you know, through coincidence or some serendipitous exchange that, oh yeah, this API endpoint or this like HTTP path actually belongs to this embedded system, and then I'm like, oh fuck, right? Or this port actually does this thing, and then now there's less, you know, unexplainable stuff to me at least. But there's still so much. Like now there's all like this more unknown stuff. Yeah, I mean it's interesting. It's super interesting, especially like this, like the thing that I saw really recently that I thought was super cool was the, so VPN filter, right? You remember Cisco's Talos's VPN filter stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So like one of the things that was super interesting about that was the malware had a trigger packet. You remember?
No, I do not actually.
So there was a backup feature in VPN filter where if it lost control or if it couldn't talk to the C2, it would sit there, the malware on the embedded system would look at the interface for a magic packet.
Okay.
That could be spoofed. And if the magic packet came in, like it looked for like a byte sequence, and if the magic packet was seen, it would rip apart the packet to find an IP address, and then it would send a shell to that IP address.
Sounds like a blog post I wrote.
Yes. Wait.
Yeah. I think.
No, it's totally unrelated, but like, yeah, I did a blog post on.
Okay. Is my foot in my mouth?
No.
No. It's good. It's good.
No,
Okay.
Just similar topics.
Okay. So yeah, like kind of like a port knock, right? I mean, like effectively that's kind of what it is. So this kind of stuff is a fucking nightmare for tracking. And so basically like this was interesting because that was, God, however long ago, 6 months ago, whatever. And then I just recently saw people at the CCC in Germany sending that packet all around the internet.
What?
Yeah.
Why were they doing that? Like just to try and
who knows? It might have been a cleanup attempt. It might have been a hijack. Who the fuck knows?
That's hilarious.
Absolutely no idea. There's a tweet, Daniel Gallagher.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna look. My Twitter gets too clobbered up.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing that I think like magic packets. I feel like they're underutilized just generally.
Yes, you're exactly right. I completely. I don't have a follow up to that. I just emphatically agree.
Yeah, magic packets, and so that the VPN filter.
Here we go. Here, I got this. I'm sending this to. Do I do to voiceless voice?
Are you sending a magic packet?
No, this I'm sending a tweet or like a link to a tweet.
Use a block quote to embed a packet. But
so that's the thread. I think I just posted it in Discord. If you want to put it in Twitch.
Yep, it's already in there.
Oh damn, man, you guys are quick.
So what's on your horizon? Like, what's the next year or two look like for you? You think?
Oh my god. It's gonna be a long year. So there's some really exciting news that I like announce yet. That I wish I could, but I can't. But I promise nobody's buying GreyNoise. That's not it. But there is like no one. People are buying it, but no one's acquiring the company. So like I've got some fun news that I'm gonna be announcing pretty soon. That I'm pretty excited about. So I'm hiring right now, which is really cool. Looking for people who are like, you know, like really like are interested in this and want to like dig through it and, you know, kind of get to the bottom of this problem with me. Like I need to turn this thing from a science project into a product and from a product into a business. And like this thing needs to like, there's a broader mission that I have with GreyNoise, which is like, it started off as like something that I've been obsessed with, like tracking internet scanners. And the thing that I found is I've like traced into this thing a lot is that the magic to it actually comes from people who are like boots on the ground security analysts and, you know, SOC analysts and, you know, threat analysts and stuff like that. Like the magic comes when I help them like make their lives easier and make their jobs easier and like provide context on some of the stuff that they're already looking at. So that's like really made me realize like, I want this to be a product and a business around saving security people time and energy and effort and providing context at the things that they're looking at and like suplexing false positives and fucking stupid bullshit alerts because they make me want to shoot myself and they're the bane of the security industry. So for me, like what's really important for me is like, basically like I need to make this transition from, you know, hacker man to like, I actually want to build this into a business that is providing value to customers and to the security industry and the security community. And so there's just a lot of shit that it's going to take to get there. It's a lot of work, a lot of stuff that, you know, I have no idea how to do that I'm learning. And, you know, it's going to be a lot of work like that. Like it's one thing to build something people like it, but it's another thing to, you know, to build a product and to build a product that people are willing to pay for and to build a product that people are willing to pay for, that enough people pay for, that you can sustain yourself as a business and to also, you know, protect yourself from competition and to also, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's hard. And so those are basically like really going from science project to an actual, you know, an actual security company. That's what's next for me in the macro sense. And then I guess like a little bit more specifically, like right now I'm doing, you know, known expected stuff for internet-wide scan and attack traffic, but I would really like to be and with domains and with other things like that. And like, I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, it sounds weird, but like, I want to be able to provide context on normal expected, you know, non-malicious files and domains and things like that. Like that's something that I think would be really valuable to be able to provide back to customers, not just, you know, internet-wide scan stuff.
Yeah, without getting too InfoSec kind of sales pitchy terminology, I think GreyNoise, you have a lot of momentum right now, and you're right in a sweet spot. And like you said, there's a lot of different places you can go with it, and a lot of vivid, minute detail that you can go into in each of these little corners, whichever one you want to pick, whichever one you're interested in. I think there's a lot of room for some really cool growth and really cool things to come out of it.
Yeah, thank you. I really agree with you too. I think that this is kind of mine to fuck up right now. And it is, I think it's going to be really hard to do the right things, but I mean, I agree. I think this thing has resonated with a lot more people than I would have ever anticipated. And I really just want to like use this the right way and like not, not, I don't want to waste the attention that it's getting and waste kind of the, like some of the, like the users in the community that we built and like a lot of the value that we're providing. So this is a long-winded way of me telling you that I agree with you and that I'm just excited to like explore like how far this thing goes because there's so much work.
I was just gonna say, I think you're doing a good job. It's definitely caught my attention. Absolutely, I can assume almost everybody in this chat has also really been seeing a lot of good stuff coming out of GreyNoise. So this is a good things ahead.
Yeah, God, I hope so.
Absolutely. And we also so we mentioned, a couple people mentioned it. We do have the Hire a Hacker channel on Discord, so you can always post links. And anybody in here who's looking for those kind of things, a lot of people are saying that they want jobs.
That's great. I'm going to be using.
Look in there because we have a lot of cool shit in there already. We have a couple of pen testing gigs and stuff that have been posted recently. Take a look.
Oh, should we ask the stereotypical question?
What's the stereotypical question?
Do you have to move to the Bay Area?
God, no.
That's awesome. That's good. Great.
But yeah, also we do have, if you do want to interact with GreyNoise, Andrew actually just gave us the enterprise access to his API. But we, in our Wishbot in Discord, if you join Discord, we have the GreyNoise command, which you can use to look up any of those weird IPs that might be in your logs and get a feel for what kind of thing it does to scan. And we'll be adding additional functionality for the enterprise access as well. So leet.club, join our Discord community, and you can play with.
I can't wait to put my IPs in to see which ones.
Oh, you're fucked. You're bad. Fucked. We're gonna get our own special tag. But
are you gonna keep scanning? What was this, like protocol 137?
132.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what it is?
132. Yep. I have some plans.
I've been doing
what?
UPnP 1900.
I see. So actually, I just did some digging on this because that tweet that you sent about UPnP, I want to see how it affect the normal baseline scan traffic. So what day was that tweet?
Oh, let me check.
I'm doing a time series analysis on it literally right now on my side. So give me 1 second for this slow ass API endpoint to return.
Yeah. Let's do this live. All right. Let me see when I posted it. It was on the 4th. January 4th.
All right. This API endpoint hasn't loaded yet, but it's a maximum of 3 seconds. This Postgres database, this table isn't indexed, so that's why.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, January 4th at 2:40 a.m. A very healthy time for somebody to be awake on the
witching hour. Oh yeah, huge jump. Hang on. So we have like a 4x increase. This is really cool. A sustained 4x increase. Okay, so it looked like we had on 1.1 we had 88 unique IPs that scanned the internet for UPnP. On 1.3 we had 74, and then on 1.4 we had 201. And it looks like it's sustained over into the next few days because it's been up since then, but not up that much higher. So it looks like, and it went down by 100 the next day, but then it went up by 200 the next day, and then up by another 100 the next day. So yeah, like basically there has been because of your here we go. So there have not been as many people scanning the internet for UPnP right now since Oh my God. In like months. So there you go.
Is there like a graphical chart or anything?
Yeah, here we go.
That'd be
Oh,
hilarious.
in month.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so
I mean,
there's a noticeable uptick in people's.
That's cool. At least people are exploring it, and that's kind of one of those gray areas, right? But it's an area that it's been wide open since I think 2006.
Oh, are we talking about UPnP right now?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, go ahead.
As long as I can remember, like when the switch from the modems, the ADSL modems and cable modems that would terminate the connection on your machine to terminating on a router. That's like as long as I can remember. Like at about that time, the time it was deemed necessary.
Yeah, oof. It's a bad problem. Korea seems to be the worst though. Like
That was where all the Chromecast too, right?
Yeah, Korea's router or Korea's ISPs, whatever hardware they're handing out is garbage.
Yeah, this is funny.
That's
I'm
from-
looking at everybody in voiceless voice hitting the GreyNoise API right now. This is hysterical.
But you should see what we do in bot fuzzing.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, it's a good channel.
I don't want to know, man.
The bot actually fuzzes other bots.
Yeah, we have a bot that can fuzz anything. So yeah, so yeah, we have another 4 minutes left here on the stream. Is there anything else that you want to touch on or shout out before we go, Andrew?
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Huge shout out to like all the GreyNoise user community and the GreyNoise everybody who's sitting in our Slack channel and like that keeps me going on a daily basis because I've been working by myself for quite some time. Like huge shout out to the people who scan the internet that make this whole thing, make the internet so noisy to make this whole thing possible. Honestly, like just thank you guys for having me.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
cool.
It's awesome to hear about like all the things.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I'm always around. So like if this is probably going to spawn a lot more follow-up questions. So you guys can hit me up, and anybody I'm so ridiculously accessible. Like you can, it's just really, really easy to find me and find my email and to find my Twitter account and all that, like for better or worse. Like people send me some fucking weird shit. But anyways, I'm super easy to find. Like come and find me, like hit me up if you have any questions about any of this stuff, or if you just want to nerd, I'm always happy to talk about it. And if you have any questions about anything I've said here, or you want to just brainstorm stuff, like super, always happy to do that. Hit me up anytime. Anybody in this room or just anybody listening to this.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, dude.
Speaking of
great talk.
Anyone listening to this now on iTunes as well? Thanks, Pico.
Oh yeah, that's the other big thing we had to announce. We are on iTunes, and if you have any podcast apps, you can search for ThugCrowd and you find us through the iTunes stream. We have a couple of audio things to just fix up, but we'll be regularly posting stuff there now, thanks to Pico. And if anybody else who is interested in doing audio work as well to help us be a top tier podcast, you can totally hit us up. Elite.club. Come to our Discord, hang out, tweet at us, do whatever. But we out here. So yeah, before we go, actually, I Commit Felonies is here, and I'm not sure if his microphone works, but he and Jack Hyde are going to be on next week to talk about physical pen testing, which is going to be really cool because they both have some amazing stories.
Yeah, it should be a good time. I know that Jack has some pretty good stories she's been stacking up, and I've never really done this whole podcast thing before. So I mean, I've got a lot of very interesting stories. I'm just trying to weed through the ones that are more appropriate to discuss and in what detail, etc., etc.
Absolutely. Sure, there's a lot of tiptoeing you have to do.
A little bit, man, but most of those NDAs have timed out, so we'll see. I can't talk about the new stuff, but the old stuff is is able to be spoken of a little less cautiously.
I like your old stuff better than you used.
Yeah, man, I was a fan before that. You know, I commit felonies. Name 5 of his best pen test engagements.
Do what?
I'm just saying, are you really a fan of I Commit Felonies? Name 5 of his best pen test engagements. I'm just being a jerk. But yeah, so thanks to Andrew for coming on. Thanks everybody for hanging out and watching. We had a lot of awesome people following and subbing and all that. Keep it going. You guys can find us on Twitter at ThugCrowd. Subscribe to us here on Twitch, Patreon, everywhere that you find us. Instagram, follow us like John McAfee did. Try to get John McAfee on with us. So we are working on that as well. But yeah, we will be here next week. And anybody have any last words before we get off the air?
Welcome to 2019.
Do crime.
Shut the fuck up, Bill War.
Do the podcast. Download podcast on Apple iTunes. Get us bumped up on the charts. Do it.
Yes. Also, you guys can stop liking the Steakum tweet. I don't think that they're going to sponsor us. We got quite a lot of likes though. So,
Yo, did Arby's ever pay you for saying that they sponsored us? Or that's not how that works. We weren't supposed to say it. That's right. Damn it.
They didn't sponsor us for saying that they were now lead free and amazing. Yeah, so we're likely never going to get sponsored, so we rely on you guys to be our awesome fans. So thanks everybody for hanging out and listening. We love you. Come hang out in Discord. We'll be in voice. See you later.